Sources telling CNBC that Fed Governor Lisa Cook could file a lawsuit to overturn her firing by the president as soon as today in a federal court in D.C. Well, joining us to discuss, former Assistant Attorney General Jonathan Kanter. He's a CNBC contributor, of course, a distinguished law professor at Washington University in St. Louis. A very good morning to you, Jonathan. What's your snapshot of what's happened so far? This is now up to her to fight back or the other way around?
It's up to her to fight back. So the president's been itching for a fight to determine how much control he has over the Fed, and now he's going to get it. She's going to file a lawsuit today. That lawsuit is almost certainly going to seek a restraining order from removing her from the Fed because they will argue that the president has not satisfied the statutory requirement to demonstrate sufficient cause to remove her from office.
And when we say they, that's her and her attorney, or it's the Fed?
No, it's her and her attorney.
And what are the implications on the Fed currently in terms of what they do or don't have to enforce?
Well, we're going to hopefully get a quick word from the court whether there will be a temporary restraining order. My expectation is that the court will issue a temporary restraining order saying that she cannot be removed until the proceeding has been resolved. That is certainly what she's going to request in her legal filing. And if she gets that, then everything will be held in place. She'll be able to continue to show up at her office, and the Fed will have to abide by that court order.
Jonathan, it's Leslie Picker here. If she is able to get that restraining order from removing her from her Fed position, what are the implications given the reports that President Trump is already lining up potential replacements for her, whether it's Stephen Myron or David Malpass? How would all of that work out in the context of that restraining order in the court?
Well, it's certainly going to take some time to name a replacement, even if the president succeeds in removing Governor Cook. So the way the process will work is it will get ironed out in the courts through hearings and appeals, and that's likely to take at a minimum a few weeks to determine whether she can be removed. So that process is likely to take place. He won't be able to nominate somebody and appoint somebody, though, until the seat is vacated.
Jonathan, I have two questions. One, and we raised it yesterday, is there any chance that if the Fed doesn't do anything, and their statement has basically said we're going to leave this up to the courts, but is there any chance that if the Fed doesn't turn off her pass or stop sending her, checks effectively for the work, that the president could try to turn around and say that the Fed chair should be fired for cause?
I think, in the before times, I would have said that's unlikely. I think in the current environment, anything is possible. I'm glad that she's going to file a lawsuit, not because I like litigation, although as a lawyer, it's always fun to watch, but because I think we need clarity from the courts here. And so if the court issues a restraining order, then the Fed will be justified in saying it is abiding by the restraining order, and the administration should also abide by that restraining order. So getting the courts involved here, I think, will give us a referee, so we have rules of the road to avoid these kinds of conflicts that might result in unprecedented constitutional crisis.
Jonathan, do you think it's been a mistake that Lisa Cook has not come out to the extent that if she believes she is not guilty of what's been alleged against her, to come out vociferously and say, look, here's what happened. There's an exception. I was allowed to do this, or a mistake was made and was signed by somebody, or I was advised incorrect, or whatever the defense is. If there is a defense, whether she should be out there publicly making that case.
I'm of two minds here. So on one hand, I really wish she would. I think it would give folks a lot of clarity to understand whether there is a there. On the other hand, as a former prosecutor, I'm mindful of the fact that we're not just talking about damage to her reputation. The referral is for a criminal investigation, which can result in going to prison. And so it is not surprising to me in that sense that she's being extremely buttoned up, retaining counsel, and then being methodical about what information to release and when. I do anticipate, however, that the filing today in court will have some information indicating what her explanation is likely to be in a proceeding.
Jonathan, final kind of big picture question, because it might have implications for other members going forward or different roles going forward. What's your interpretation of what qualifies as cause?
So cause, if you, again, I think traditionally has been understood to be malfeasance, neglect with respect to executing your duties in the job. I think the president believes cause should be, frankly, because he wants to. And I think that's the fight we're going to have here. I think most legal scholars and legal experts will tell you that it really is supposed to relate to her duties. Here, the conduct predated her time in office, and it doesn't relate to her duties. Now, if she were convicted of a crime and fraud after a thorough investigation, grand jury, and a trial, then perhaps there might be a basis to remove her. But in the interim, cause really is supposed to be about not doing your job well or exercising poor judgment, malfeasance, neglect, something really extreme.